My name is Dale Goldhawk from Canada. Alzheimer's disease killed my father after 8 long years and indirectly led to the death of my mother well before her time. For the past 22 years, I've been involved in many and various roles in the fight against dementia across Canada and around the world. Joanne asked me to recall a couple of personal memories, and so here they are, the bad with the good. I remember the day that myself, my mother, my brother and sisters took my father to a care home. Alzheimer's disease had made it impossible for my mother, who was on duty 24 hours a day, every day, year after year, to continue. It was even at that point affecting her health. We as grown kids did as much as we could, but it was my mom who was always there. We were going to the care home. We had tried to explain to my father what was going to happen. He was upset, although he said little in those days. I was wheeling him in the wheelchair, and we were going up the walk towards the care home, a good care home. We'd checked it out thoroughly. We knew some of the people in this small town. And my father turned and looked up at my mother and said, "You did this to me, didn't you?" That was our reaction too. That was the voice of my father. It was clearly not my father. Later, as full aphasia set in and my father had literally nothing to say and was in a hospital room where he ultimately died, suffering from pneumonia, he had this sound that he would make, oh, 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 that's all, as he lay in the fetal position in his bed. We often gathered as the family around in his room. The hospital had then kindly moved him to a private room. We certainly appreciated that. And we carried on family conversations, as we had many times. We were a very tight family. We had a loving mother and father. We marveled at our mother and father's love for each other, their wonderful life together. My father, a self-made man, highly intelligent, witty, the life of the party, reduced to this. And we were talking about many various and sundry things. Oh, you know, I forgot. I was going to mention something else. Just hold the thought on that. So many things flooding through my head, it's hard to boil it down into that 5 minutes you're talking about. So we left our father at the care home, and we were devastated. Later, we were at home with my mom, and we got a call from the care home. And the care home said, "Your father's gone." We were shocked, of course, but I remember thinking quietly to myself, "Yep, that's my dad. He flew the coop. He got away." So I patrolled, the police were out, I was out looking for him. Eventually we found him sitting quietly on the front steps of a house in which he had been born 75 years later. And I walked up the pathway to him and I said, "Hi, Dad," and he said to me in his gruff voice, "What kept you?" And so I said, "Come on, let's go home." Then shift back to that hospital room and we were having a conversation. We tried to include my father, but we would speak for him. We wanted him to be, we thought maybe at least he was listening, that he could hear some of this. Because Alzheimer's disease is the kind of thing where the blanket suddenly pulls back and you get a few moments of lucidity and then it closes again. So we're talking about various and sundry family things. And at that point I was somewhat newly married, somewhat. And I remember saying, we were talking about matrimonial things, I guess, and I said, "Well, I know one thing." And I'm sitting on the edge of Dad's bed, and I've got my hand on his shoulder as he's making this sound. And I said, "I know one thing for sure, that I certainly don't deserve a wife like Jill. My father stopped that sound and he turned around and he looked at me and he said, "No, you don't." Those are the memories that are uppermost in my mind, and it's a distinct honor and pleasure to share them with you today. Thanks very much.